The name of this story is My Family Was Invited to a Live TV Show. Halfway through, it turned into a massacre. It had everything going for it to be just a regular weekend, or even the best one ever, but it wasn't. I was stuck at home with the flu, barely enough energy to get out of bed, which sucked because we'd been invited to watch a live taping of a TV show. My younger brother, Chow, was super excited about being in the audience. One of those random game shows that pop up out of nowhere, full of games, prizes, and way too much yelling. Our neighbor, Miss Sonia, had been picked to take part in the show. She'd always been that sweet old lady everyone on the street loved. Kind, funny, a little quirky. The kind of person who makes a neighborhood feel like home. When she got selected, we were all pumped. We were really close to her. So she invited us along. There were seats saved for me, my brother, my mom, and Miss Sonia's grandson, who would stay with my mom while she was on stage. He and Chow were both 13, but I didn't go. The flu hit me so hard that even sitting up felt like a chore. My mom said she'd leave the TV on the right channel so I could still feel like part of the experience. I laughed, thanked her, and sank into the couch under a pile of blankets, sipping tea that had already been cold. The show was supposed to start at 8 sharp. While I waited, my mom kept texting me, asking how I was doing and if I felt any better. She joked about feeling like a celebrity, walking through backstage with her fancy dress and makeup. It was kind of funny to picture. When the time came, the show kicked off. I shifted on the couch to get a better view. The host was charming, and Miss Sonia even more so. In the background, I spotted my mom and Chow looking straight into the camera, not even trying to hide it. Everything was going as expected. Your typical loud, cheesy variety show with dramatic music, trivia questions, and weird but fun challenges. The twist was that contestants were split into two teams made up of total strangers. The whole idea was to see how well people could work together under pressure, competing for prizes like kitchen appliances or trips abroad. Miss Sonia was killing it. She nailed the questions with confidence and cracked the audience up with her off-the-cuff comments. At one point, the host, this overly tanned guy with teeth so white they looked fake, asked if any of the contestants had brought family. All excited, Miss Sonia pointed towards the crowd and proudly said her son was there, waving like a kid. The host, grinning like it was part of the script, invited him up on stage. The audience cheered. Her son came up, looking a little shy, and gave her a big hug. The music swelled, and the host made a joke about how much they looked alike. Everything felt totally normal until the cameras cut out. The screen went black for a few seconds. When it came back, it wasn't the stage anymore. Now the feed showed security footage from inside the building. Narrow hallways, dim rooms, concrete stairs. The screen was split into several little frames, each one showing a different corner of the place. At first, I was confused. I figured it might be part of the show, some new game, a prank, but no one said anything. No voices, no explanation. In the center of the screen, one camera, slightly bigger than the rest, showed the stage, and what happened next is something that'll haunt me for the rest of my life. A gunshot. The host was on the floor, dead, blood pouring from his head. People screamed. A figure in black, face covered with a scarf, came out from behind the big screen on stage and started shooting. The audience lost it. People screaming and panicking. Pure chaos. I could feel the fear crawling into my skin, just like it must have crawled into theirs. I sprang off the couch and grabbed my phone. I kept trying to call my mom, but she wouldn't answer. So I started calling my brother, all while watching the host's dead body lying on the floor, right there, in full view of the camera. More shots rang out. The shooter was shouting for everyone to stay on the ground. People were watching it. That horrifying thing playing out live on TV. My heart pounded harder with every second that passed without someone picking up. And then, finally, my brother answered. "Chow. Chow. Are you okay?" I yelled, panicked, desperately hoping it was all fake. Part of the show. That the host and the others would suddenly get up and laugh. But my brother answered softly, breathing hard, fear heavy in his voice. "Help. They're shooting everyone. Everyone." My heart almost stopped. I scanned the main audience feed, trying to find where he could be. There must have been 100 people in there, but I couldn't spot him. "Where are you?" I asked, desperate. "In the bathroom," he whispered. Thank God. He'd gone there before it all started. I could hear him crying quietly. And then he asked about our mom. "Mom, do you think they got her?" "She stayed out there." His words were full of fear and heartbreak, and I couldn't find her either. Not in that mess of bodies and panic. The doors seemed locked. No one could get out of the main room where the show was happening. There were more bodies on the floor. My biggest fear was finding my mother's body among them. Another man appeared, also with a scarf over his face, and dressed completely in black. Looking now, they were heavily armed. Guns, knives, everything. They had everyone under control, forcing them into a circle. And now that I could see everyone together, I realized my mom was among them. She was still alive. But, on the other hand, Miss Sonia, she didn't make it. Her already red hair was now soaked in even more red blood. Her body lay sprawled across the floor. One of the gunmen walked right over her, stepping on her without a second thought, like stepping on ants. He didn't even notice. I stayed on the line with my brother, trying to calm him down. I told him Mom was okay and that I'd call the police. He needed to keep hiding. At that point, I'd forgotten I was even sick. Adrenaline was pumping through me, through tears. My brother let out a quiet, "Okay." In the background, the camera was still showing everything. It was shaking now, like someone had knocked it over. For a few seconds, all I could see was the ceiling. But then, someone picked it up, again. One of the men. He laughed. "All right, let's show this to everyone." The camera turned to the circle of hostages. It froze on my mother's face. My heart stopped. Still on the phone with my brother, I ran to the kitchen, landline to call the police. I tried my best to stay calm for his sake and mine. Luckily, someone picked up fast. 911, is your emergency related to the Blue Veil network situation?" the operator asked. I was surprised. They must have been getting tons of calls. It was a good sign. It meant help was already on the way. "Yes, please help us." My brother and Mom are there. My mom's being held hostage, and my brother's hiding in the bathroom. I tried to say without stuttering. She told me what I've been hoping to hear. They were already on their way and doing everything they could. She asked me to turn off the TV, since the shooters were broadcasting this massacre live, and if the audience dropped, it might frustrate them. I hadn't expected that, but I couldn't turn it off. I needed to keep watching, to see if my mom and brother were still okay. If I turned it off, my thoughts would eat me alive. I didn't know what I might do. She seemed to understand and let me keep it on. I dropped the phone and rushed back to the TV, trying to make sure Mom was still okay, while staying on the line with my brother. That's when I realized, almost frozen, that one of the shooters was no longer in the main room. He had left, probably hunting down anyone who had escaped. Something different happened. One of the cameras started moving. The shooter was using it while looking for victims. They really want to broadcast everything they can. Humans are true monsters. I told my brother to lock the bathroom door, quickly, before he got there. The door doesn't have a lock, just the stalls. But that won't help much, he said, his voice shaky and muffled, like fear was wearing him down, each word harder to get out. I could only think, frozen. Shit. I asked if there was anything he could use to block the bathroom door, but unfortunately, he said no. The best he could do was hide inside one of the stalls. The shooter was switching from camera to camera, walking through the hallways, and now with his own point of view being streamed through the camera he was carrying. I didn't know the place, but I was sure he had to be near the bathroom. And I was right. Listen. He's heading towards the bathroom. Don't make a sound. Don't scream. Don't move, I told him. And in that moment, I heard him trying to hold in his cries, agony taking over his body. All I could do was try and comfort him, and all he could do was pray. There was a loud thud, and shortly after, a gunshot. Thankfully, the shooter ran off towards his partner in the main room. I'd never felt such relief. And my brother, it was like he'd just been born again. He's gone. He ran into the main room, he told me, and we both felt better than ever. I checked the main camera. The shooter entered the room, and now there was another body on the floor. Apparently, one of the hostages tried to grab the man's gun, and well, it didn't go as planned. They started yelling, saying they were running out of patience, and that they'd start shooting everyone in there. I'd never heard so many screams and cries of desperation. Everyone was begging for their lives, desperate, pleading over and over. They said they had families, but the shooters didn't care. They shot one of the hostages in the head. My brother let out a terrified little squeak. He'd heard the shot and asked if Mom was okay. I reassured him and told him she was, but I also said they seemed to be out of patience. The police needed to get there fast. Right when he said that, they started shooting at more people. They were yelling, "Shit, shit, shit. The cops are here. Now what?" One of them shouted, and the other just said, "Just kill them. We're going down anyway." And then it all went off. I saw every shot, the fear draining from the faces of each person they hit in the head. They weren't letting anyone get out, just shooting one after another. And when they ran out of bullets, they pulled out knives and machetes. It was brutal. They were just hacking into people. Every one of them probably had a family waiting at home. In the middle of all that brutality, My mom broke down in tears, and that shattered me. It didn't feel real. I just wanted to wake up from that nightmare. That was all I could hope for. But before her turn came, the inevitable happened. The image froze, went gray for a second. Then the blue veil TV logo popped back up on screen. The cameras were gone. Broadcast interrupted. I screamed. My brother asked what happened. I didn't have the courage to say our mom was probably dead. I just told him the feed had been cut. I couldn't just stand there and do nothing. I made a decision. Grabbed my dad's gun, took his car, and drove straight to the station, keeping my brother on the line the whole way. It was over an hour away. I sped like crazy, ran red lights. I didn't care. I just wanted to get there. I just wanted my brother to still be alive. But the thoughts wouldn't stop. Please, please let them not have been found. And then, the call dropped. Dark thoughts flooded my mind. I tried to believe it was just his battery dying. But even before that, I noticed something was wrong. It was too quiet. I could only hear his voice. Nothing in the background. Those 40 minutes were the longest of my life. When I got there, the building was surrounded by cars, police, and a crowd. Maybe bystanders. Maybe families of the victims. I rushed up to an officer and asked if they'd seen my brother. They said they were still searching the building for survivors, but had only found one. Thankfully, it was him. When I saw him, I pulled him into the tightest hug, his body shaking in my arms. I wiped away his tears with trembling hands and thanked God he was still alive. No one else made it out, not even our mom. The police had already started locking down the scene, collecting evidence, but to us, nothing made sense anymore. My mom refused to accept that everything had changed that day, forever. I made myself a promise. I would protect Chow with everything I had. He'd never go through anything like that again. Later, everything came out. The attack had been planned for a long time. What shocked me most was that 3 people were behind it. 2 were the shooters. The third, he worked security. He made sure it all went live. That's why the station didn't cut the feed earlier. And just knowing my brother could have been seen if he had stepped out of the bathroom a few seconds earlier, that haunts me. Thank God he didn't, because he and I and thousands of others saw everything through those cameras. A live broadcast that will go down in history.